stuff.
Not just colonialism, it's also because it was the first world which was uh, very involved in wars, and during wars, technology developed a lot. So, since you guys have better tech, better satellites, better communication, better protocols, and a much more formal version of news media, especially digital and audio and radio stuff, so it just became uh, like the standard, and so the information flow started coming in. Same happened with media. So what's the weather and eco-sensitive region like in Florida?
Are you recording this right now?
I can if you want.
Yeah, yeah. Because talking about media, that's a unit in my class, and that what you just said was really interesting. How y'all hear news from east to west or west to east or whatever. Um, it's just interesting. But yeah, Milton, and what a name too, Milton. But Helene was pretty wasn't that bad for Florida. That was the one before it. It sort of skimmed our state, but the southern end of the hurricane is always the worst part of it. And so when it did that, it brought a lot of flooding in, and it flooded our beaches. But overall, Florida, just a storm in Florida. It messed up the Carolinas real bad with mudslides. Like people are buried underneath mud there still. Um, and their governor really messed up. He had no idea what he was doing for disaster response in North Carolina. I'll give DeSantis his due. He has been very good um, with his response. Because when Milton came, that nailed us. I've never seen so many trees knocked over, these big 100-year oaks. What happens is it rains so much, the ground is saturated. So it's like mud, but not mud. It's like mud underneath the ground.
Yeah.
And the winds get so high, these 100-year oaks just fall right over. So that's this whole area. And if you don't have your power lines buried, you lose power. So I'm lucky to live in an area where they buried them, but we even lost power for 2 days because the roots ripped up the cables in the ground from the trees getting knocked over. But I was lucky. I only lost power for 2 days. My window got, a little damaged by a branch. Is that me?
What happened? Some noise?
Yeah.
Probably my microphone.
All good.
And is it back now?
Yeah.
Wait, did I just
It's just like a static.
um
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
right, okay, much better. Hmm.
So what would cause that? Just wondering. The static.
I have no idea. Actually, like there could be multiple reasons. One of them could be that I have multiple audio devices connected to this whole rig. So
Mm-hmm.
if you've been following me on Instagram, I have upgraded my rig entirely. So now I have a new laptop. So in total, I have three laptops, one tablet, two smartphones. It's a whole rig right now.
Oh, your own company. Actually, man, I took a break from social media for like 3 months. If you haven't noticed,
That's
um,
nice.
just for my own mental health and school's getting tough, and I was just like, I need because it's such a mental thing. Um, that I'm just like, I always tell students to take breaks. So I need to take one, and then one week turned into two. Then you just forget about it, and I was just sitting around here in the hurricane. I'm like, I need to see what Malay's up to. I started thinking about, then I was checking Instagram again because it's been a while. So I hope you've been well. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah. And I wanted to tell you about these storms because they were just so epic.
Of course, like whenever we hear these kind of news stories, all of a sudden for 1 or 2 days, everybody's talking about climate change. Like
Mm-hmm.
everybody all of a sudden is worried about climate change. And as soon as anything minor comes up, for example, what's happening in Canada right now, and all of a sudden all media attention goes to Canada. No one cares about climate change anymore.
Yeah, that actually made me sick when someone would bring that up because people are suffering and you're trying to make it political, but and both sides did it. There were the conservatives in America were like, it's weather modification and yeah, I'm sure the government would destroy their tax base and the state that makes them a ton of money. Yeah, I'm
Especially
sure.
a swing state during
Exactly.
2 weeks before elections. Sure.
Um, and then the right, the left wing was all about climate change, and it's like, y'all, it's maybe it is climate change. Maybe the government's seeding the clouds. I don't think it's neither. Like, don't get me wrong about climate change. It is what it is, but it wasn't the direct cause. Outside of the heat in the Gulf being high, but the reason that's high is 10 years ago we dumped about, I don't know, 100 tons of oil into the Gulf. People tend to forget that, and then we put this chemical to make the oil sink into the Gulf to the bottom, so it's still there. It didn't disappear. It's just at the bottom of the Gulf of Mexico. And they're like, oh, it's climate change, the reason it's so hot. I'm like, no, we dump our sewage in it, we dump our trash in it, we have oil leaking nonstop. Maybe that's warming it up. How about we clean up our own pollution and our own shit before we start just screaming climate change and there's nothing we can do. That's why I hate that argument. It's a helpless thing. Like, we can't do anything. It's like, no, we can do a whole lot. You just want to cry. I don't know what the deal is with that.
That
If that
is
makes any
something
sense.
which is like so prominent amongst Gen Z. I am Gen Z, but so I recently got a promotion at my job. Like, not a promotion, but like,
Congrats.
I was on probation now. I'm a full-time employee. So I, Arisha, Dimple, um, Hansveen, all of us, like the four friends, you've spoken to all of us. So all four of us are in the same company at the same position. We are all together, and
So you
it's a
all got promoted?
yeah, it's a great company. Me and Dimple are doing full time. Arisha and Hansveen are part time right now. But it's a great company. The culture is great. People are amazing, and we are actually working on things which 4 years, 5 years ago, America was working on. Gender sensitization, climate change, uh, protection for minorities, especially for women, and how to bring more and more females into the workforce. There are areas where I
Cool.
disagree philosophically over what direction the company is going in, but overall, for a country like India, I think we're on the right path. Don't know. We'll find out.
I outside perspective here. I'm an American, and obviously I know it all. You know, um, we always scream about that type of stuff, and we've achieved a lot, right? It's like we don't acknowledge that. In India, y'all are up and coming, and y'all are gonna have, you and your friends are gonna have tremendous opportunity, and that's an area where there's tremendous opportunity to make like real change, not this weird superficial change in America, but like actual helping people have better lives, and that's like really cool. I just think that's like the coolest thing to have like an impact to really like a woman that couldn't get a job as like a doctor or something. To be able to plow down some obstacles for her to be successful is just amazing. Because sexism in the United States is, if anything, I know this sounds gross. There's more male discrimination in America at the moment than female. You know, I mean, it depends on the
Any
job and stuff like
any first
that.
world country, that's the same case with Canada, the same case with Finland. Like America has a tendency to overcorrect, right? And the kind of changes
Yes,
which America implements, like as a society, not as a government, but as a society, are mostly made of tokenism. So it's not actual change, it's more of tokenization. So, hey, the school council president is a female. That should solve all the issues, right? Oh, we made a black person or a person of color into this powerful position. Now, no more oppression, right?
the political party that's really bad at that is the Democrats. They love to do that. Here's my black vice president, this or that. The one good thing about President Bush number two, was he had Condoleezza Rice, and he never went, "Here's my black, this or that."
This is
He
my
would
black.
just say, "Yes, she's the best woman for the job," and I'm like, "Oh, that's kind of refreshing." You didn't even mention her race. Like, that's the way you want things to go. I mean, he made a mistake in every other thing in the his career, but that was the one thing where I'm like, wow, he picked the best person, and he didn't even look into that or care about that, which is where we want to get to, based stuff based on merit, and there's so much surface level stuff that there's now a big reactionary movement against it in America, especially in Florida. The DEI, anti-DEI measures. It's wild. But I've also experienced it. Like I was passed over for a principal job for a African American lady who then got fired for stealing money. So then they asked me to take it over, and I just said, "No, I'm good being a teacher," because it was a hard job. It was a job for the violent kids, the mentally ill, violent kids. So instead of getting a 6'2" big guy, let's get a 5'6" African American lady that doesn't know what she's doing.
This has been an issue, like even in the police force, in US. Like I'm I'm all for female empowerment, but the problem with diversity is that that should not be the only criteria. Uh, America stood for meritocracy when no other country did, and that is what made you guys leap forward 100 years of development and the wars, but mostly that merit.
The
And
guns help. Yeah, the guns definitely help.
definitely, helped. uh, but like even as an Indian or like any Southeast Asian, any person, when we look at America, we assume that hey, I have to work hard here and I have to work hard there as well. If I work hard over there, my chances of success are exponentially high, and that's what you're used to be. And currently that is the perspective right now also in India. All of India's millionaires, as soon as they become millionaires, they want to get permanent residence, they want to shift to US or Canada. And to an Indian, average Indian who's not as informed as somebody who's in regular media or who consumes news regularly, they still consider US to be the only true meritocracy. uh, do you think that has changed in the last 5 6 years?
It's still a meritocracy because what happens is like what happened to that woman I brought up. Yeah, she got hired, but she was then fired within a couple of months because in a job like that with dangerous kids, I hate to call them that. They've had horrible upbringings, but when you have difficult kids, you can't hide that, right? When they start punching teachers, breaking windows, and you don't know what to do, right? There's a whole system you got to implement of rewards, and then you got to build up to events they get to earn. Like it's a whole thing you have to do. And she was just sitting. She would just sit in her office, and she put up aluminum foil over her windows, but no one could see in. And it's like, because her office was positioned to watch the whole campus. And so she blocked up the window. That was her one job, was to watch the campus, and she blocked the windows. So the district came in and just, you know, moved her. Um, and then they brought in this older guy who's, was retired to fix it. And that's when they asked me to go over there. It's just that was right around COVID, and I was burned out. And I actually enjoy teaching. Like, I really do. I don't like tackling kids all the time. So like that can get dangerous because these kids can hit and they know how to fight. And because you don't get paid more for, I mean, if you're a principal, you do there, but even with the extra pay, I don't know. I get to sit and talk about history and sociology and psychology all day, or I could run around, chase kids, and get punched. You know?
Tomato, tomato, same thing.
Yeah. Um, because we call them EBD schools. They're emotional behavior disturbed. So there's three categories the kids could fall in. And most of the time, it's just bad parenting or no parents. So you essentially have to be their parent figure. Like
This is
none of them have
so
dads.
amazing to me that this is something which is happening right now in India. It's a completely parallel, congruent thing, but instead of addressing it in the way first world countries are, uh, a lot of millennials, or I would say, uh, even people who hold certain values, uh, have just given up entirely because uh, a the new youngsters or people who have uh, grown up with bad parents or who have had mental issues of any kind, uh, a lot of people in India are getting exhausted of showing them empathy, of giving them an easy hand, of letting them go. And now everybody demands accountability from everyone except the government because it's worthless. But but from the average person, especially in a society which is rapidly turning into a capitalist society, uh, accountability, responsibility, um, these traits are actually considered a lot more valuable, especially in the market right now. And this is completely missing from the new generation of uh, people who are coming in the workforce. They are not at all accountable. They take no responsibility. They will not take any initiatives unless you enforce it on them. Uh, and there's just this complete uh, lack of excitement in them, and people are just tired of trying to make them better, trying to understand their trauma. It's not my job. People just back off. Not my problem.
We're having the same issue in America with younger workers at the moment. Like these EBD kids, for example, that I used to work with, they'll be fine once they grow a little bit older if they can get their, impulses under control because they're all hard workers. I would take them outside and just do some physical activity. Like, oh, we're going to dig this to make a fort or something. And they would work so diligently hard on it. And if we can get them a job with like Duke Energy or the power company, like I used to have teachers say, "Oh, if you don't do this, you'll be digging ditches." Digging ditches now is a good job. It pays 25 an hour. All right, you're lucky to be a ditch digger, um, and so they'll be fine. It's these other suburban kids that are kind of fitting into the mold of what you're saying of no resilience. We had a teacher, this brand new teacher we were going to hire at a college, brought their mom to the interview. Yeah, yeah, dude.
How old was he?
He was had to be 23 or 24, and because we have a new principal, she's a woman. This year, my friend that was the principal was sent to a high school to fix it, the flagship high school of the county that just went to trash. Um, so I got put on this committee to hire some new teachers. Um, and yeah, I brought his mom, and I thought she was going to be like the person we're interviewing. I'm like, oh, your name's Thomas? And she's like, no, that's my son right here. I'm like, oh, hey, buddy. Like, and we let her, like, my principal let her stay. If I was in charge, I'd be like, oh, ma'am, you have to go. This is a job interview. This isn't a TA
Bring
conference.
your parents to work day.
Yeah, and apparently it's been happening multiple times around different parts of this country. Like, I would be so embarrassed if I did that. Like, hey, mom, come to me with a job interview. That's,
I mean,
I
yeah,
mean, if
it sounds like a lot of people have grown up to be man children.
the man child, yeah.
Yeah,
Carl Jung has a whole thing on this, delayed adolescence.
and like I don't know, this is something which in India also a lot of the times this is happening where a full-fledged adult human being, 21, 22, 23 years of age, they would commit a crime and then they would hide behind their parents or they would ask their parents to clarify it on behalf of them, and then their parents get involved and then they bribe the officials. And then in one of the most recent cases there was this 17-year-old kid who's like 4 months short of being 18. It's illegal to drive in India unless you are 18 and above. He
Oh,
was
really?
driving, yeah, he was driving a Porsche
Uh-huh.
while under the influence of alcohol. he
Oh.
he killed two people, and then when the investigation started happening, the forensics teams, of course, they took his blood to get the alcohol levels and all tested. It was found that
Hmm.
his mother's blood was used to test the alcohol levels.
What?
How complacent are you? Give
That
the
whole
kid
family
two
should have been
tight
arrested.
slaps. Just slap the kid into reality. What are you doing?
Because that's not going to end well. Because in America, I mean, I guess we have so many guns. The family of the people who died would have went directly after that family and killed them. Like that's the one thing about America. No matter how rich you are, a poor person can still come kill you at any point if they want to.
I mean, that
I
is
mean, I guess
also
it's common in India. You
that
know,
is one
do y'all
way
have
of
guns?
maintaining social justice.
Do y'all have guns over there?
No, it's very difficult to get your hands on a weapon in India. Exceedingly difficult. Even self-defense ones, even pepper sprays. It's very rare. Uh,
Yeah, if you ever come visit Florida, when you get off the plane, they'll just hand you a weapon gun. Here's a pistol. Have a
welcome
nice
to
stay.
welcome to America.
Welcome to Florida. You might need this. No, it's act. This is what I wanted to tell you. During Milton, right? Helene hit. Then there was like a week between the two big storms, and everyone was like panicking. I really wasn't because I've already prepared. Right, every hurricane season I prepare because I know how it goes. You get water, you get coolers, batteries, um, generator, but they're kind of I don't unless you lose power for like a week, then but you get phone banks too, so you don't lose your digital stuff. And then you get a bunch of gas. You gas your car up. And the amount of people that didn't do that astounded me because gas pumps don't work without electricity. So I went up to this pharmacy to pick up one of my prescriptions, and I was looking at this gas station next to it. This guy from Missouri bullied an old woman and took her spot. Now, get you, there's a half a mile line for people waiting to use this gas station. That's how many people were getting gas. And then it's like out of nowhere, three Florida men all had guns and pointed it at the guy, going, "You don't treat people like that around here." And I'm like, "Oh my God, it's the OK Corral.
It's a
I'm gonna
gas
see a shit."
station. Put your guns
Oh,
away.
oh yeah, yeah. And they were going to, and they were all in different parts where they could have shot each other after they shot the guy. It would have went through him and hit the other. Anyways, the guy was from Missouri and was just like shell shocked. I mean, he was an asshole. Like, you don't bully an old lady just because you want gas. Just wait, right? But if you do that in Florida, you're gonna have guns pulled on you. From dudes that are like, "That ain't right," you know. And he got in his car and drove off without gas. So um, it was like that type of crazy before the storm. The storm was at first it wasn't that bad, but it was the back end of it that just nailed us. Um, but I lost power for 2 days, you know. And then afterwards, we had trouble getting gas again, and then people were acting the same. People go nuts in America over gasoline. If they don't have it, they it's like heroin withdrawal.
That like kind of justifies America's foreign policy. Kind of. Not entirely, but I get it.
I watched a great documentary about that. Basically, we're the oil empire. Um, I'll send it to you.
Yeah.
Um,
I was actually having this discussion with someone, one of my friends from Qatar. Uh, he was telling me about like the entire petrodollar thingy and like how something as invisible as the petrodollar was indirectly fueling terrorism inside India.
I could imagine so, but how?
So like a very short version of it would be that US was giving money to the Saudis. Saudis were siphoning off money to create religious tensions in other oil producing countries so that they could produce more oil and take down the leverage. Some of it money ended up in Pakistan's ISI, which was tasked by the CIA allegedly for legal reasons. All of this is alleged. Uh, so the CIA paid money to the ISI to train jihadis, which are warriors who fight for religious cause, to cause disturbances in Afghanistan. And the ISI, being the great accountants that they are, took some portion of that money and said, hey, uh, if we are training terrorists to send to Afghanistan, why not send some towards India as well? You know, just like that. So completely unrelated, majority of terrorist attacks in India are funded by the petrodollar, which is crazy.
Yeah,
Like this was a consequence nobody would have even imagined that something like this would happen, but it did. Globalization at its peak. Terrorism is the best example of globalization.
and we should be trying our best to befriend India as much as possible. Like, if our enemy is really going to be China, which I don't think China. I think China, knock on wood, is sort of a paper tiger, but India's not. Y'all have a ton of people. You have nuclear weapons. You have a navy. China's navy is a bunch of fishing boats. Um,
Trollers.
and y'all have a legit warrior history. So, and you're a democracy, and you're willing to stand up against us. Like, we should really be working a lot better with y'all than we are. And when I see these politicians talk, they don't even mention stuff that's like vital to like the security of the world. If we really cared about that, but we don't. We care about oil. So if there was a lake of oil found right on the edge of y'all's like maritime border, guess who's going to war?
Yes.
No, I don't know if we would do that. We'd probably try to cut y'all a deal. But
Thankfully, we are a democracy.
and I don't know why we do this weird support Pakistan, support India, support Pakistan. Like we're
I
not we're
guess
not the British. We're not supposed to be about that, you know?
yeah, it's more like India has also not been very cooperative on the world stage lately. Quite honestly, Indians are really disappointed by our foreign policy. The smart ones are the dumb Indians. The majority, 80-90% people, they don't really care what the foreign policy is. As long as there is bread in their house, it's fine. And I totally understand that. The problem with the elite class of India, which discusses politics but not engages in it, is that our foreign policy has been so pathetic. A very brief history of Bangladesh. There's this country which geographically looks very much like India, just to
It's
our
like it's Eastern Pakistan,
yeah,
correct? Is
yes,
that what it
East
was
Pakistan.
called? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That was East Pakistan. So in 1971, our Prime Minister Indira Gandhi uh, liberated, in the broadest possible sense, that country, made it into an independent nation, installed a leader who was friendly to India, and that leader and his daughter has been leading that nation ever since 1971. So, since the inception of that nation, they have had a friendly attitude towards India because we literally made that country and we installed our friendly
Still
ally
today?
uh, till 3 4 months ago. 3 4 months ago, there was a coup, and
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
yeah, just like Sri Lanka, it is the exact copy of Sri Lanka. People went
Okay.
into the royal palace, stole everything, took a
I'm all
dive in the
for that.
swimming pool. Yeah, victory for the common folk. And on one side, the leader of the nation is addressing us, and like all small leaders of the nation are saying, if we have a refugee problem, there are people from the Bangladesh and Myanmar who are coming to India illegally. If you have to address the immigration crisis, yes. And on the other hand, to escort the Bangladeshi Prime Minister to safety, Indian Air Force takes off and forms an aerial convoy or whatever it is called to escort the Prime Minister of a neighboring state, of a neighboring country, outside of their airspace into airspace land in India. We are already hosting the leader of Tibet, the Dalai Lama, and now we are hosting the leader of Bangladesh. Why are we hosting leaders of like our neighboring countries into our nation? If there was an issue, we could have gone in just like we did in 1971. Why
Yeah.
not do that?
You know more than me. I don't know. That's.
So,
I
all
mean,
of India's neighbors are in political, economic, and social turmoil. Pakistan, political, economic, and social turmoil. Myanmar, political, economic, and social turmoil. Sri Lanka, political, economic, and social turmoil. Bangladesh, political, economic, and social turmoil.
yeah. Burma. I'm gonna call it
Yeah,
Burma
Burma.
always.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah, they have a pretty vicious civil war going on right now. I see. I'm pulling for the rebels. You know, um,
It's
but I don't really
ironically
know too much.
started by Facebook. Like, not started, but it was propagated by Facebook, apparently.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. I know that military junta is like vicious. So I don't know why we're not doing more like to take those people out. Like just let's send in some of our slimy psychopath CIA people in there, and slit some throats.
Maybe they
Because
are involved. Who knows? Maybe they are behind all of this. I I'm
yeah,
gonna say something controversial which might sound wrong to a lot of people.
go for it. I
Uh,
love it. Go for it.
when America acts as the global police force, uh, if you are on the right side of it, the people benefit a lot. The people benefit a lot more from a capitalist dictatorship than they do in a communist dictatorship.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Or a totalitarian like Putin's getting back into Africa now
Yep.
against the French, and the French haven't been good either in like what is it, the Sahara sort of western part of the Sahara. They haven't been treating people right, but it's not like the Russians are going to go in there and treat them better. You know.
Yeah, if
Um,
somebody has no option, right? I know all the intelligence agencies uh, do indulge in a lot of political affairs across nations. But if I were to choose a bloc this time, and I guess as a nation, if India had to pick a side, we would not pick Russia's this time because we've seen the horrors of socialism that this country has gone through. Uh,
um, so socialism is a weird thing. Like it's all on how well, it's all on how you do it. Like public schools are technically socialism, right? Like you can do certain things well, but you got to have the people, you got to have the willpower. But if you start messing with prices, if you start messing with consumer goods and people's choices, that's when things start to break down, I think. If you start telling people, oh no, you're a good soccer player, but we need you in factory X, you're going to have a rebellion soon, or a military dictatorship. I don't like those. But like the world right now just seems so wild. And I didn't think about India's position being surrounded like that. That's kind of wild.
yeah.
Then y'all have China right there. And don't y'all like fist fight China every day on that border region?
Yeah, that is actually because of a treaty which is like prohibited the use of ammunition. So we have big sticks with spikes on it. So
That's awesome.
yeah, I think someone, I think it was Albert Einstein who said that I don't know which weapons World War III will be fought with, but I'm sure World War IV would be fought with sticks and stones. That's
uh,
India-China border. We are fighting with sticks and stones in the Kashmir Valley and in the Chinese LAC.
what are your thoughts on Kashmir?
Uh, that whole state is the result of historical circumstance. Uh, so the reason why partition happened in the first place with India and Pakistan was because of religious and different ethnic groups had their own uh, choice to choose where they wanted to be, whether they wanted to be in the domain of Pakistan, the domain of India, or they wanted to stay independent. Uh, a lot of people opted for India. And if we were to talk in terms of legalities and technicalities, yes, it belongs to India 100%. It is an Indian state. Um, and if we were to talk of just with a sense of morality, it is an Indian state. However, the way the Indian state has acted in the past towards uh, the people of Kashmir by rigging elections, by removing the governments and representatives which they themselves have chosen to represent them, that breaks trust. And uh, of course, there are foreign powers involved in it. There is absolutely no doubt that there are foreign powers involved. It will
Oh, I'm
take
sure our
time.
CIA is having a fun time
CIA, ISI.
for no
So,
reason whatsoever. We're just doing it to do it because cool.
uh, I mean, it's also nice to have something to distract the common masses, right? Like if you don't have a conflict on the border, then people are going to start asking the real questions like, why am I not getting quality water? Or
Why
like,
are my wages going up? You
yeah,
know.
like, so you need to have something to distract them. It is a state that 100% it belongs to India, um, and it is for its own good that it should remain an integral part of India. Otherwise, you're seeing what is happening with our neighbors, right?
So, do they want to join Pakistan? Is that the deal?
No, that's not what the referendum or like any. There has not been a referendum yet. Uh, the thing is that so Kashmir had a Muslim uh, majority population, but a Hindu leader, the opposite of some other states. So there were states in India in 1947 which had a majority population of Muslims, but their leader was a Hindu, and it was the opposite in Junagadh and Hyderabad, where there were uh, the majority population was Hindu, but their leader was a Muslim. So it became a delicate power balance of where to choose what. For example, the closest parallel I can draw is remember how during this American Civil War there were generals and people in the military who were conflicted about whether they were more loyal to the idea of America or they were more loyal to their state. Grant Lee,
Mm-hmm.
for example. And so similar things were happening in India, where it became difficult for the leaders to decide whether they feel more loyal towards the people who they represent or the larger idea of a nation, because before that, a nation this huge did not exist.
Well, that's a good, I guess, metaphor or whatever that's called. That's a good example to use because that really helped me understand it. Um, yeah, that makes sense. And they should not try to join any other nation because India, you want to be joined at, that's they're on the way up, right? You don't want to hop on to Pakistan, which may not exist in 20 years. It'll exist in some form, but I read this interesting article about how the northern part of Pakistan is different than the southern part and how they don't get along. Like the Pashtuns or something
That
don't get
whole
along.
region, the starting from Mongolia to uh, the entire region of Mongolia, Kazakhstan, Afghanistan, uh, Balochistan, Pakistan, Sindh, till you reach Punjab, that is the border state of India, you can't effectively grow crops. It is so
Oh,
much. It's like it's an environmental disaster. That whole region. You've got mountains, valleys, dried rivers, and it's not sustainable for a state to live, sustain, and grow within that boundary. You need to have more resources, and uh, like not just from a strategic standpoint. It's just common sense because Kashmir has been a part of India for like centuries, and it just uh, it's an issue which has been dragging on for like an infinite amount of time because there just doesn't seem to be peace in the valley. It's violence after violence, violence against Hindus, violence against um, Muslims, and at one point there was this conversation about uh, this was a very niche conversation which was about the monopoly of uh, use of violence by the state. Why should the state have monopoly over use of violence? And when these conversations start emerging from one particular region of a nation, that means something has gone drastically wrong. There
who
needs to
was
be
saying
strong
that?
intervention. Uh, so we refer
Because
to these people.
that's a Murray Rothbard libertarian um, argument. Um, I'll send you a PDF of the book. It's a
Sure.
short read. It's called The Anatomy of the State, and he basically argues that. So maybe someone over there read that, or maybe they came up with the same idea. But
Uh,
yeah, that's a dangerous idea.
it's separatists at its core. That's the thing. It is a very separatist idea because what is happening is in attempts to prevent the culture of that place, there would be different laws enacted in Kashmir, which are not exclusive to Kashmir by any nature. There are certain other states that too also have the same laws. which imply that uh,
Uh-huh.
you can't buy residential or commercial property in that state if you are not a permanent resident. So if you do not have a domicile, you cannot buy land there, which restricted trade, which restricted businesses. So in order to get into protectionism, that state was practically practicing isolationism while being part of a nation. And India largely was only responsible for its foreign relations, communications, and not even all of finances. So it seemed like a very one-sided relationship, and that
They
had
were
to end.
paying,
Yeah.
yeah, paying them to not to behave, basically. Um, yeah, and Kashmir, it's well known in the West because of the sweaters. I have a cashmere sweater. I like it.
Yeah.
Like they have an ability to make industry there, and those people have the ability to make some money because they have a name value that's big in the West. Like if you say this is cashmere, like students will come touch it. So I got it from my father because he went. I think he actually went to Pakistan for Lockheed Martin way before I was born. Probably sold them missiles, that probably hit India. So yay for that. Sorry. Anyways, um, yeah, he came back with this nice cashmere like jacket sweater thing, and it's awesome. Got to keep the moss away from it. But like, how much is cashmere over there?
Uh, in India, fabric is relatively cheap. So it's very ironic how in India things which are made in India are not perceived as high value. So an H&M or Zara t-shirt might cost you more than a cashmere sweater in India.
A what shirt?
H&M or Zara, these fast fashion brands. So fast fashion brands are sold at a higher price in India than cashmere fabric sweaters.
That's insane. Because fast fashion is so gross. Like, that's my students. They'll wear it once and then throw it away. Because remember one time they like, you wore that shirt last week. I'm like, yeah, I washed it. And they're like, you wore it again? That's gross. I'm like, what? Are y'all psychotic? You know, I don't. I just don't understand that mentality. Like, so I literally had to explain to them like, when you're an adult, you have to use something called a washer and a dryer. Okay, and we wash our clothes. I don't know what happened with the pandemic, if these kids lost their brains for 3 years or what, but this year has been difficult. Like I've been waiting to see the effects from this pandemic, and it seems with this particular class of juniors and seniors that I'm teaching, it's like they have trouble driving. Like it's basic stuff. Like one girl has this is gonna sound unbelievable. And like ethic wise, I probably shouldn't say it, but this one girl has trouble tying her shoes. So it's like, how'd you make it through kindergarten? And I guess in America we have something called gentle parenting. And what that is you allow your kid to learn as they please and grow up naturally, and you don't intervene and force them to learn. And when they make a mistake, you talk to them and this or that. It's like, yeah, now all these kids are assholes. They're breaking windows and shit. And I like really screamed at these kids this week because we had hurricanes. Like I was in a good mood. And this kid like screamed at a female teacher, and he didn't see me behind him. And my voice can get really loud. I went, "Hey, you don't start talking like this or that." And I started pointing his face like that. Oh, they tried to like get me arrested. The mom wanted to press charges. I'm like, for what? And the SRO is this 24-year-old kid from New York, and he was like trying to take her side, and I told him to leave. I'm like, leave. I have jurisdiction. Because in Florida, teachers have
How
jurisdiction.
how much experience does one need in the police force to be a campus security officer?
So up until the labor shortage with COVID, what would happen was you would have someone do the beat, they would call it, for like 20 years. And then they'd be like, all right, I'm tired of the danger. I'm going to go be an SRO and help kids. And it was cool. I was friends with all those dudes. But now you don't need any experience. You can just do it. And so they put this 24 to 25-year-old kid in there from New York that doesn't know the culture, thinks he's like, oh, I was NYPD. I don't care about that. You're taking a parent's side. One, you work for us.
Yeah,
And
take this donut, go stand in a corner, go
I'll throw it
stand in,
over there. Go get
go
it.
stand, go stand in a corner.
And he doesn't really know the law. That's what surprised me. Like, because in Florida, the teachers have jurisdiction over the classroom. A cop has to ask permission to come into my room. He didn't know any of this because you don't want to undermine the autonomy of the teacher, right? So if you have the SWAT team, unless of course someone has a gun, like there's extenuating circumstances,
Of course.
but the rule was put into place for political reasons and because they were just coming in and arresting kids that were suspects of something. And that's really embarrassing to do that to someone and to interrupt the learning process and mess with the teacher, regardless. I had to explain that to him. And the principal actually made him leave. She backed me up. And then she then goes, Mr. Hendricks, I have this. And then she went and chastised the lady.
Wow,
So
it's crazy
it
how inexperienced individual are put into position of uh, power or authority. And when, see, that's the thing. I'm not saying that everybody should adopt an Indian style of parenting, but what parenting actually does, it if you are 30, 31, 32, 35, in fact, you have faced obstacles, you have done things and have found out, okay, this doesn't work, this doesn't work, this doesn't work, okay, this can be navigated. So you have all of that experience, and you use that experience to give a structure. um, you can curate life experiences, or you can create a playground where your kid does not have to uh, hit false positives or go through the same failure routes. Instead, he knows that if I take this structured lesson approach, I might be able to reach where my father reached in 10 years. I might be able to do it in 4 or 5, because I don't have to divide my energy in 4 or 5 sectors. That is why we have syllabus. That is why we have a structure. That is why we have a curriculum in education, because we have, uh, through research, through methodologies, through findings, through trial and error, arrived at a system. And of course, it is evolving. It needs to work to be done. What happens with this style of parenting is that when you leave a person completely open to choices, and the number of choices keeps increasing every year. So
Yeah.
if you pair the permutations and combinations, the chances of error or the chances of wrong permutations and combinations is increasing rapidly, while those which have a success rate is getting narrower and narrower.
Yeah, the two greatest teachers in life are experience and failure. Having the experience in doing something, you'll learn, and then failing at it. But learning from the failure, having someone tell you why you failed, and generally then reflecting on how you can prevent that from happening. And I'm just not seeing that. Like we're pushed, especially right now after this hurricane. The subtle message was pass everyone, just get them through. And I get that because my whole county was like destroyed. Um, so they're going to get it past this term, but it was even like that over COVID. And um, like this English teacher was talking about how he can't even teach anymore because of AI. I'm like, no, that doesn't matter. But like, if you can't tell a kid is using AI to write an essay or a short story, then I can't help you. But even if he is, he has to make it his own to not be obvious. Um, and it's not even about that. Like you have to get them excited about literature and reading, and you got to be like very energetic. Um, you can't just hand out worksheets and be blah blah blah, be quiet, or they're all going to go to AI. You know, so
This
it's
is an
it's
issue in India as well. Sorry to cut you off. Con, you were saying something?
no. Keep
Yeah.
going.
So this is an issue in Indian schools as well, because we are trying to hire. See, we we are giving decent pay as per the work, like I can say it confidently, and we are trying to find people who can do the bare minimum basic things like how to use MS Word or MS Excel, and people are not able to do it.
What word?
Word, Excel, PowerPoint. If you know these three software and throw in Canva, right? Word, Excel,
And
PowerPoint,
what?
and Canva. Canva is a graphics
Oh,
design
Canva. Yeah,
tool.
yeah,
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 it's very easy, very basic. You don't need to
yeah,
be a GD for it. Like it's really easy. If you know these four software, you can be where I am, and I'm in a good place. But people just
It's wild. Like life, can be extraordinarily difficult, but I think a lot of times people make it extraordinarily difficult. Oftentimes the boring mainstream way forward, which is made fun of a lot. Well, it's mainstream for a reason, right? um, like getting a government job in America, at least, it's always seen as safe. Yet you're not going to be super wealthy. But the reason it's safe is because you get a pension. We're the last pension in America, meaning I get my paycheck until I die, and there's no other job that does that. They do 401k, which run out. So but no one wants to do the teaching thing because they don't advertise it right. They don't talk about the pension, and it seems like a mainstream thing, and it's not enough money because everyone apparently is going to be a billionaire. Obviously. Like I just don't get what people are doing sometimes because like we still need teachers, and then you get these randos off the street, these random people that I just don't understand how people can be that bad at a job. Like no idea what they're doing, getting walked over, getting tricked by 14-year-olds who I will say are quite sly. If they trick me, they get an award because it takes a lot. I don't get mad at them. I literally give them a little like certificate that says you tricked me, good job. Like if it's nothing bad, right? If they said I'm going to go to the bathroom, they really just go meet their friends to talk. They would have to gaslight me basically. But if they were able to get away with that, good job. But guess what? It ain't happening again because you ain't leaving my classroom again.
the thing with this behavior is that it removes any sense of consequence from these people's lives. And the thing is, in
Yeah,
school, things are fine. In school, there cannot be something as severe, like unless you're, of course, you're a person of color who's like playing with a soda bottle, which tends to have a very like, unless you're doing something which may get the attention of some authority figure, it's not really going to cause you a problem. uh, but the moment you step into real life, the moment you get into a company and you are not a diversity hire, uh, consequences are hard for the smallest of things. Uh,
yeah,
you might think that you need to do something wrong for something bad to happen. Sometimes it's your inaction that leads to something bad happening. And companies are very quick, in India at least, to figure out exactly where things went wrong. And they'll directly put it on you that, hey, if no one else was watching this deliverable or this client meeting go this way, you were there. You can say, oh, it was not in my job description. Doesn't matter. You saw something wrong being happening and you did not intervene. It still is on you.
yeah. America nowadays, they'll do the same thing, but they'll give you multiple chances. At least that's what it looks like happens in PR, public relations. Um, but they're already firing Gen Z left and right, like because they'll write rude emails, and the last thing you do to your boomer boss is write a rude email because they are very long-winded, professional. You don't put LOL, LMK. You never write that. Like I literally tell students this, like you have to write professionally, or they will fire you. Like because they'll be scared you're going to do that to a customer, and then they'll lose business. Um, this I don't know if it's social media, pandemic, economic downturn, or all of them like mixed together that sort of created this weird environment with these younger kids. But something like every country needs to come up with their own specific solution because it seems like this is happening in all like sort of developed countries. Um, I will say though, at Hollins, my high school, the kids that are doing the best, who I think have the bright futures, are the blue collar kids. They all are holding down two jobs, not because they need to either. They can work one job and be fine, but they want money because they don't have it at home. And I had one come and fix up my house, and he did such a good job. Like he got all my neighbors' business, and he ended up making a couple grand. And he's like, "Wow, I didn't know that could happen." I'm like, "Dude, you need to make a card. You need to make a logo. You need to really like get on this. Then
Yeah.
go out, get a license through the county, So that's a huge bright spot because plumbing and electrical in Florida, they'll be making a lot of money because of storms and lightning and power surges.
He can also do a part-time trade school certification.
Oh yeah, he's going to P-Tech. It's called. I'm making sure of that. He can get. I'm telling him to get every certification he can get. Like when you do that type of stuff, there's even like certifications for air conditioners, like Carrier and other brands will give you specific certifications for those. And if you have those, you can charge more, and or a big, excuse me, a big company might hire you. But I don't even know. I tell them I don't even know if you should do that. Be your own man. Like
Yeah,
if you can,
and yeah, and have your social media presence with regards to it. Like, share your experiences, share the problem that the customer was facing and how you solved it. That is going to have a very, like, it's going to give you visibility, right? It's going to tell to the world that okay, you know your stuff, and it's a good way to collect real-time reviews from customers as well as from the audience. So, like, if people are going to use social media, you might as well uh, do your own thing over there instead of mindlessly consuming.
yeah, yeah, promote yourself. So I'm very bullish on the. I hate to call them the lower classes, the working blue collar class, the suburbanite sort of middle to upper class. That's where I'm seeing all these problems, behavior wise, and all this other stuff. The blue collar kids, if you treat them with respect, they are taught to treat you back with respect. And I never have a problem. If I do, one call home, and then the parents are never rude, and they'll just go, "I'll handle it." That's all I hear. I'm like, "Oh, okay, thank you." Um, and with all these hurricanes hitting everywhere, so there's just a huge opportunity for these people to make some major money from insurance companies if they don't fail.
Who, who
You
actually
know,
names these hurricanes? Like Katrina, Helena, who names these hurricanes?
the National Weather Center, and they go in. I don't know how the actual names come up, but they go in alphabetical order, and it's when I heard it was Milton, I'm like, oh, this is probably going to be bad because it's a silly name, and silly name storms usually, it's all random. They're not random, like the damage is random, but the names are in alphabetical order. Um, yeah, this thing had some serious winds. Like our baseball stadiums, top got knocked off. Like I don't know if you saw the trop. Here I'll try to show you.
Like
I mean,
your
it was
school is like
old.
very well built, if I'm not wrong. Like it's a very well built structure.
So I'll show you that too. Mine was one of the few schools in the entire county that only had like debris, and that's about it. Like I thought my room was going to be flooded, and no, it was fine. Let's try to share my screen. Can you see that?
Yep.
Yeah. So that used to be a dome,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
now it's so people were going around and trying to get up pieces of that as souvenirs, which is really weird. But that was like the stadium of my whole entire life. Um,
Okay.
it's it's half an orange, by the way. Like the dome is half of an orange slice.
Ah,
If you
nice.
down,
I
yeah,
think you sent me a photo from the stadium of some graduation ceremony.
Yeah, yeah, that's where we have our, like, I don't know where we're gonna have our graduation this year. Um, but ooh, wow.
That's an American flag.
Well, yeah, I know, but it looked like this big scoreboard was coming down. It doesn't matter. They were gonna tear it down anyways to build a new one.
Every time I see
So
an American flag flying like that, I'm like immediately reminded of that Donald Trump shot, like in Pennsylvania, where he goes fight.
oh
Man, that was like
yeah,
crazy.
um, I guess there was there's a whole conspiracy theory about Iran sending in like a hit squad to get Trump, and I guess Biden came out and told Iran that we'll nuke you or something crazy like that if this is true. And no one knows if it's true or not. But if Biden did that randomly, they you killed Trump. I'm duking Iran like that. Like imagine you're Iran and you get that call. You're like, we're not doing anything. What? No. And you have some like guy with dementia. You know, like if it's anyone, it's disgruntled FBI agents. I mean, it's just kind of obvious. Um, I
The
mean, for
things,
Iran,
yeah,
mhm.
I mean, the things that US does or threatens to do militarily aren't up for debate in academia. They are always for the morally right reasons, and there has never been anything ever wrong. Blackwatch, with anything ever, Blackwater, nothing wrong ever with anything.
My favorite. I mean, Iran has the right to hate us. Like I watched another, I read, or no, I read this good book about how we overthrew Iran's first democratic government in '52, and
No, no,
it's
liberated the people of.
you're right how we liberated them from democracy because they wanted to nationalize their oil. Can't be having that.
No,
We got to get our cut. And basically, um, they tried the military way, like with by paying off the soldiers, and they went to Mossadegh, who was the president's house in the middle of the night, to try to do a coup and arrest him. And he had an anti-coup trap he had every night. So when they knocked on the door and said, "You're arrested," and he goes, "No, you're arrested." And all these soldiers pop out of the bushes with guns, and our CIA agent booked it and barely escaped. And do you know who that guy was? Kermit Roosevelt, the son of Teddy Roosevelt.
damn, high
So
profile.
then he meets with another CIA agent that just got into the country, who was the father of General Schwarzkopf, the guy that did Gulf Storm. So, America's like, oh, yeah, we don't have elites. Blah, blah. No, these are our elites. And
Call the
so
ambulance, but not for me.
they come up with a plan that it's genius, it's evil, but genius. And basically, Iran at the time, under the Shah, had a huge wealth inequality. So they had all these day laborers with no jobs. So they decided to pay them a good chunk of money, like $100 a day back then, which was, who knows how much, to go and do a protest for the president they wanted to overthrow. Not against, but for. Yay, most of that. But then when they were done, to trash Tehran, burn down buildings, throw rocks through windows, and they did that for 52 days of just celebrating the president and then doing a riot afterwards, to where the president was like, "Listen, I like these protests, but or not protests, these rallies, but stop destroying the city, please." People got so fed up. The military, who weren't even part of it, like they didn't know what the CIA was doing, said, "Enough of this." They came in and overthrew them. And I'm like, that's one of the smartest ways to do it. Like, it's so devious to just trick everyone. Two people did that. Like,
Sometimes I genuinely am baffled by how smart yet how stupid the US defense ecosystem is. Like at the same time, like so one
it's
like you told me a story of like absolute brilliance. Wow, mind games, soft power, incredible, right? I'm gonna tell you a story of of it's a there was this war which India was fighting Pakistan. It was, I think it was around 1971. And so India had bought a used aircraft carrier from Britain and renamed it. Like it was about to be out of commission from the British Navy, so we purchased it. And so when the US and the UK Navy came to attack us, we defended ourselves by using the same aircraft carrier that we had purchased from the Britishers.
Mm-hmm.
And the US Navy and the British Navy had to retreat. They could not get past the blockade.
They couldn't get past their own weapon.
And it's it's so
So
amazing to me.
it's because we're not centralized, right? Like you'll have two good CIA agents doing something good somewhere, and then two idiots, that are going to get caught, and because it is a big country, and it is somewhat of a meritocracy and democratic, so you're going to have the cream rise to the top, but it's also nepotism and the spoil system. So you're going to have people pushed to the top. So you get that weird mix of people that are really good. You're Barack Obama's, even though his legacy is what it is. But, he's a smart dude, made it up there on his own. And then you're George Bush number twos at the same time, it's just, that's America. Like anyone, not anyone, but especially now. But people can come here and just make it either great or at least try and look ridiculous. you know.
I mean, this is something which I used to like about America a lot, especially American presidents, was that 5, 6 years ago, when you looked at American presidents, uh, you could find examples of great men trying to do great things or good men trying to be better. You would actually see role models, icons, and people actually admired the presidents. Yes, they did some horrible things in Middle East, but let's if we can put that aside, if you just look at that person and their family, they were people who prioritized their families. They were the people who um, cared for the central unit of America, of any country, that was the family, the nuclear family. They represented that. They protected it culturally. So from a society's point of view, they were men, ideal people who at least pretended to have morals, at least
Hmm.
pretended. Uh, with Trump and then Biden, uh, it has just gone so downhill. Like Trump is funny. I truly believe that Trump is funny. He's not a role model. He's not an icon.
He deserves to be on stage at a comedy place, not in the
Yeah,
White House. You know, he's entertaining. That's great. Put him on TV. But Kamala is a social construction. She's a pro wrestler. Like she's like a made up persona. I don't think we still know who Kamala is. Um,
Kamala is that blue-haired girl who you find on Harvard campus.
she needs to embrace her whole self, right? She needs to stop acting token, like I'm black, this or that. She's married to a Jewish guy. She's half Indian and she's half black. Go in all the way to all of that and say, "This is me. This is who I am," and I think people would respect her a whole lot more than whatever the hell she's doing now.
There was
But
a chief
at least
minister in
she's half
India.
Indian, right?
People here claim to be like anytime someone does anything good, then they are Indian. Anytime someone does something bad, then they are not associated with us at all.
Well, I think her mom, who raised her, I don't know, was Indian or half. But when you say Indian, that could also mean like
South
so many
Asian.
different. Yeah. Well, technically, Indians are considered white in America. We didn't know that. They removed them from Polynesian. Our system is so stupid. Um, And like
what's happening with Vivek Ramaswamy? Like, what is the people's opinion on him?
Vivek, he's angling for a position in Trump's White House.
Okay.
Um, Unless something recent's happened with him. I didn't like him at first because he came off too strong, but he is brilliant. He's smart. He's a family man. He can go toe to toe with anyone in a debate. And the Democrats haven't been producing good, young, smart people like that. And it seems like the Republicans all of a sudden now have a deep bench of young, smart guys like that. Vivek, it's either going to be him or DeSantis after in 2028, I think. If not both of them. I mean, Vance will have a shot if they win. I think DeSantis has really helped himself with how he's handled this hurricane. Like we had crews going down our street helping us. They were handing out checks to help people get food. Like, and in North Carolina, there's still towns that are buried underneath mud, and people don't know if they're alive or not. DeSantis, bam, was working on it. So, but Vivek actually has the chance to be the first Indian president. He does. That is in um, the realm of possibility because he can debate. He has a lot of extreme views, but if he tapers those down a little bit to more the mainstream, um, he's not disliked. All the Trumpers love him. Like the America First people love him, which is really wild
That's
to me.
yeah, exactly. That's really strange because if you are a minority in a country, why would you take the conservative, the right
So
side, and then get support from that side as well?
see, because that's the fundamental misunderstanding of that movement. It's kind of right wing, it's populist, and it's not racist. Everyone loves to scream it's racist and it's Nazis. There's black people there. That's why Obama, a couple days ago, gave a speech to black men chastising them for supporting Trump because he's a racist. Like, what did you do for black people, Obama? You're the racist. Trump literally saved the black colleges in America. So that means he's actually done more for black people than Obama did. But regardless of all that, um, no, you can be a minority and go to those rallies and you're fine. They actually, if you have the shirt, if you're wearing their symbols, the red hat and a silly NASCAR shirt, they'll love you. They want minorities there because they want to show they're not racist. Does that make sense? Like, because they're stereotyped that way. So you'd be welcome, man. You'd probably be given free food. You'd be almost be celebrated, and that's why I think some of these minorities actually do it because they want the attention a little bit. Um, like how Trump goes during that one rally. Look, there's my black. He points the random black dude,
There's my
but it's
excuse
not
to
a.
be racist.
Yeah, I mean, he says crazy stuff, but the actual movement's not racist at all. Like I was raised in the South with old Southern racism. That's not present in that movement. I know it when I see it. I'm sure maybe in pockets of the South it's still around, but not like Trump's not racist. He's all for Trump.
So,
That's it. Trump is the easiest person to understand. All you have to understand for Trump is what you either have to compliment him or understand that he will do whatever will make him look the best. And that's it. And racism makes him look bad, so he's not racist.
uh,
That's it. That's
he
simple.
he's the right person for the wrong reasons.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah. So I mean, like in India, we'll support any government which is friendly towards our students. So in India, the higher education sector or education sector in general is not ready for the 21st century. We are we're trying to deal with it, but are failing miserably. So a lot of Indian students are studying in Canada, Australia, New Zealand, United States, of course. Like, what do you think is the general consensus of leadership, like on both sides, on Democrats or Republicans, on students in colleges, especially from countries like India, Pakistan, China, because a lot of students in American universities are from these countries.
it's gotten to a very high percentage. So that's a complex issue. What they have to do is they stop funding the universities like they should, so it became more free market, and they could charge people out of the country and out of state more money, which is what they've been doing. But that screws over the person people in state. So what they need to do is ensure a certain amount of in-state people get in, and maybe not gouge the foreign students either, like they've been doing. But the main people are the Chinese, and there's just fishy stuff. I don't fully trust what's going on because they have been known to swipe some things for from our research labs. But I see it depending on our relationship with that country. But with India, I think it's going to be wide open. We like to bring in, we tend to get along with Indians, especially Stanford, Florida State. We had a large Indian population, a lot of Patels, but that seems to be the Smith of India. I knew three. They were all in the same class, and they were pre. They all in the first name. They're all girls, and their first name started with a P. So it was P something Patel, and I would just be like, "Hey, Miss Patel." She's like, "Oh, you don't have to call me Miss." I'm like, "Yeah," because I couldn't remember the first names that
Pronounce uh,
and they probably saw me as this huge redneck guy anyway. So, but they were wonderful people. Um, so no, it's gonna stay open. Like we need to fix the price structure of it. Maybe make deals with other countries to I don't know, do some exchange program or subsidize it. Um, because right now it's just disorganized. But there's no one, no, there's no movement against anyone outside of the Chinese. Basically, people aren't too happy. I'm serious. Like Florida State is overloaded, and that probably sounds very racist, but
that's fine.
it's not good. Like it should be the Florida Chinese Institute at this point, because when I went to Florida State, like it was a football powerhouse. It was fun. We had our foreign students too, but they assimilated in, right? And they went to football games. I would take them to football games. This Romanian and this kid from Nepal.
Football,
I think
football,
real football, American football,
rugby.
not that weird games that you will yell kicking that little round thing. But a college American football game is a sight to behold live. It's just amazing. You have 80,000 people all chanting, and I think it surprised them. It's probably similar to a soccer game, soccer. Um, but I don't know. Like in the South, football, American football is just the king, and I guess it's similar to how like South Americans treat regular football. Um, down there, how there's like riots and stuff.
Yeah,
Um,
countries
like
have went over war over it. El Salvador and Honduras had a war over football.
whoa, whoa, whoa. Say that again.
Uh, it
Who
was not
fought?
like El Salvador and Honduras. It was called the 100-Hour War. Look up.
Why'd they fight?
So tensions were brewing from like a lot of times. Maybe there was an influx of migrants. Someone says something. Someone says something. Uh, all hell broke loose when one team got defeated in a soccer match, and then the football players, real football players, were staying at this hotel in this other nation, and then the fans of that nation just started throwing stuff at their windows. They had to be escorted in an armored vehicle, and surprise, surprise, in the next match, the players from the other country had to come to this country, and they received the same treatment. And yeah, so after one defeat in a football match, the militaries went to war.
Well, I don't think that's ever happened here. But here, I'll show you this recent upset of Alabama. losing a game for the first time in a long time.
Sweet home Alabama.
It's not very sweet there.
In India, they are known for memes and incest memes.
They've made in Diego Pavia, this
Unfair.
attitude, this program, and the biggest win on the West End. Vanderbilt takes down number one
The
Alabama.
Vanderbilt won. They haven't beat Alabama in 100 years.
Oh, they're not taking it well.
Oh, this way. They go.
Diego Pavia very nearly went into the
So they had
stands to
a
celebrate with his brothers, but
quarterback.
instead they've come onto the field with him.
Uh-oh.
And the rest of the students will do the same. Somewhere in that maelstrom is Alyssa Lang.
Like this is
When
unbelievable.
when people start jumping boundaries, that's never a good. Oh God.
Alyssa Lang will become
That's
the
their
only
quarterback.
one seemingly to stop Diego Pavia today. Into the chaos, Alyssa.
Diego, you just beat the number one team in the country. What's going through your mind right now?
It's literally all God's timing. Literally from the jump. God gave me a vision when I was a little kid. And he don't let that. And he promises it's God's time. Like, I'm super thankful. Super thankful for guys like Eli Showers. Man, that kid's incredible. The Red Bar team. Look at this. Bailey, we're fucking hard.
Diego, what were you saying to your team to finish this game?
Shit. Games like this change your life. You know what I mean? It's all about hype nowadays. And I don't like it like that, but it's a reality of NAL and all that stuff. But, you know, I just stay grounded, be where my feet are, and every single day tomorrow I got to work on Kentucky.
You had 70 family members here. What did it mean to do this in front of them?
Where they at? Where they at? Where's the fans at? Where's the fans at?
We got Coach Lee here as well. Coach!
I absolutely love this side of sports where they like every time they win, it's God gave us this win. They will always
Oh yeah.
thank God, they'll mention God. They'll never take God's name. Like you've never heard a player say, God made me drop the ball. God tackled me.
It's such an American weird thing, but even like the Oscars too, it's weird. I would like to thank God for acting. Like I would like to thank God. Blah blah. Blah. It's like, um, but at Florida State, there was a legendary head coach there named Bobby Bowden who was there, and I met him a couple times, and he explained it that the reason you thank God is because of the opportunity He has given you in your life on this life path to reach that moment. And the way he explained it made complete sense, but no one ever explains that. It's just like what you said. I want to thank God. And it's like that you completed a pass. Let's say this God does care, right? Like, why would He care? You know, about your one game. How come He doesn't care about the game down the street? You know.
I want to see what the the losing side has to say about that God.
It's also the South too, and they are so religious. Like it's literally you go to church on Sunday from 10 to 11, and you race home, eat lunch, and watch football. Like that's your Sunday. Like I literally have football on right over here.
I mean,
It's just what you do.
it's amazing because see these things actually help form a community and uh, it time after time in research after research it has been found that it's not the material, it's not your possessions. Yes, they do matter to certain things, but the thing which makes you happy and keeps you mentally at peace is sense of community. When you're sitting with your cousins, you have a hot dog in one hand,
Yes.
beer in another. That's just hot dog and beer. That's how I would imagine like a typical Sunday for an American. How close am I?
See, I'm not a big fan of hot dogs, believe it or not, but hamburger, then yes, you're correct. Um, Even though I know that might not be culturally
It's
appropriate.
totally fine. A lot of
Um,
Indians actually do eat beef. Like I once I
are they
spoke to
Hindus
this
though?
in secrecy, yeah. Like not secrecy, it's more of a meh, like just do it. I mean, it doesn't really become a huge deal until it is explicitly made political. It's
Okay. Yeah. It's just like looking into my own like history and past, like all my ancestors were just eating ungulates and deer and cows their whole life. That's our existence, you know?
Yeah, I mean,
um,
anything that culturally brings people together. It could be sports, could be media, could be literature, could be. It was Disney at one point, and now look where they are.
yeah. Um, Poor Disney. I
Uh,
saw the new Joker. That was,
Second part,
I huh?
the second one.
Yeah. I actually didn't not. I kind of liked it, but I can see why people don't. I just respect that he took such a chance with that thing. Um,
People in India just love Joaquin Phoenix, so whatever he does, he will be appreciated. Uh, Even like,
so this is the Surgeon General report called the Epidemic of Loneliness
okay,
in America, and actually, I think he's an Indian dude.
if it's academia or medical field, you're always
There
going to find some Indian. Okay, Vivek Murthy. Okay, nice. He's an Indian.
Yeah, he's a good one. I think he was actually appointed by Trump too.
Okay.
But no, like I show this, I give this to all my students. It's like this is why you're not happy, kids. He did a great. This is a great paper. Here, like household, family, social engagement. Um, it's gone down since 2000. I mean, just look at these numbers, and you can see why people are unhappy, and why you're correct. Like just hanging with friends and family is so important. It's not money. I mean, you got to have a fulfilling or job that pays, but outside of that, like if you're just alone in an apartment, you're not going to be healthy or happy.
Yeah. So
Um,
suppose someone has their own house. They're not renting a place. Someone has a house. Uh, and they are a family of three. So mom, dad, and one child. Uh, so would you say $60,000 per year for one person, like $60,000 per year for the father and $60,000 per year for the mother?
oh,
Uh, would
that'll
that
be
be
great.
comfortable in US?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
because that's what I call the teacher scam. Is basically you're a teacher, you marry another teacher, then you have some kids, and you can get Um, 3 bed, 2 bath house, probably. It depends where, right? And you got to be smart. But that's enough, if you know what you're doing with budgeting. Um, and if it's a downturn in the market and you have saved money, that's when you strike, you know? Like right now, everyone's leaving this area. All these people that moved here are now scared to death of climate change is going to eat me. And so they're all fleeing,
Not
you
if the
know?
alligator eats you first.
Right? They just found a Nile crocodile in the Everglades. We need to get our guns out. What are we doing?
Guns.
Like a Nile, those things eat humans. Um. Anyways, so in Florida, it used to be really affordable. You used to be able to get a pretty good house for like that that setup. But everyone moved here, and it was mainly because of our laws. But now that's over. COVID has passed, and the storm's hit. So I'm hoping we get back to that. I don't. I hate that people have to go through tragedy, but if you can't handle that tragedy, which I've been dealing with my whole life, I really don't feel bad that bad.
I mean, like people used to up until I would say 2016, people used to flock to New York, New Jersey, the the tech areas which are your Californias, and like nobody really thought of Florida as much more than a retirement location. That's just what Florida was, like a place to retire.
Um, no, you're right. We're a service economy down here. Um, the big tech sectors, the biggest tech sector in Florida is Orlando. They have a tech little hub there. That's where my dad originally worked. In my area here, we have a lot of so what Florida is either service industry, the elder welfare, or defense contracts. That's kind of a secret. I'm not kidding. Like that's why I'm here because my dad worked for in the defense industry. We make our missiles here. We have MacDill Air Force Base, which is CENTCOM. So when we do drone strikes, it happens about 10 miles away from me is where the guy with the controller is. Um, so hey, FBI, if you're listening, I don't care. Come get me.
I think they divided the
I think it's
northeast.
changed.
Yeah, so earlier it was northeast air defense sector before 9/11, and after 9/11 they split it into northern air command and southern air command. Earlier it was a single unit. It was called NEADS, and Langley Air Force came under them.
So we have MacDill Air Force Base here, and and that's a major, major, major operational center. It always has been since World War One, since the Spanish American War. It's been a thing. Um, and because we can amply supply them with food and citrus and all this stuff, and the Tampa port is one of the better ports in America. It doesn't ever get its due because it's shallow water port, but they use a tugboat. Well, they'll send out a boat to get the cargo off of it in the deep water channel, and it's actually really effective. It's better than Miami's crappy port. Um, and they make stuff at the port like orange juice. The law in the United States is to be called Florida orange juice, it has to be 51% from Florida oranges.
Hmm.
So they'll have the 51% in a big vat, and then they'll bring in oranges from Brazil to be the other 49%. Um, and you can actually taste it. Like when I taste true Florida orange juice, it's like, oh, this is better because you're not mixing oranges. Um, and there's a place it's literally called Citra, Florida. It's in the middle of the state. The best orange juice you can ever imagine,
So
made
like
from Valencia oranges.
this is fascinating to me how good the regulations are for food when it comes to defense contracts and other things, and how terrible the nutrient quantity is when we are talking about school lunches.
Say that. What about say the last part?
Like like the contrast between the quantity and quality of food which is given in school lunches and the one which is made for defense contractors and like the general population.
Yeah, it's kind of gross. I don't know why. Like that could easily change if parents cared more. Like if the Moms of Liberty, which is probably the most powerful political entity in Florida at the moment, when they get mad at something, it changes quickly because it's all the moms of Florida that are like Marjorie Taylor Greene. They're all crazy, but they all like me. Like they seriously got me out of hot water several times. Like the principal got on me about something, and this lady was at the front office, and she just starts screaming at the principal, and she can get away with it because she's the head of the Moms of Liberty. They got one school board member fired because they didn't like him because he was too woke. So they just have too much. They're basically the wives of rich guys with too much time on their hands, but they're fun people. Like they're funny. It's just, um. Anyways, so
It's a very simple
it,
fix. Like it doesn't require so much. Just get the same company who makes the food for your defense personnel, give them the contract to hand over the. And I'm not talking about the MREs, which are like the meal, not the MREs, but the general cantonments, which employ which are used at these air force bases, right? They have
you're
lunches.
you're absolutely right. And if the Moms of Liberty and other groups cared, that would happen. It's just their kids get to bring their lunch. So who cares about other people's kids? That's the individualistic. It's sad, but it's true. Um, and yeah, that's actually a great idea what you mentioned. But instead of defense contractors, we use the prison people instead. I'm not kidding. So the same people that supply the prison food supplies our food, and they have good cheese sticks. they're not good. That's what the kids say. So
I
I
wrote
actually
about
don't.
this in my book. There was an entire chapter of how and why the prison system and the school buildings are modeled in the same way in terms of infrastructure, and how the corridors and the halls with these doors are built that way. I think it was chapter 6 of my book. I wrote about this. Like you
Mhm.
mentioned, that the principal has access, like the principal can see the entire school from his office, his or her office. And that's the exact same way the wardens of a prison are positioned. It's these large corridors with rooms on either side. This structure is psychologically designed uh, to be in a specific way, and it is why all the schools and prisons are modeled in this way. In-
Almost all schools, except the old school ones. But yeah, I know that's a really good observation. Um, I'm gonna show you my school again real quick to show you why it didn't storm, or I'm sorry, why it didn't flood. Oh, I'm not sharing this. Let me share this.
oh, the trees are all grown now.
Yeah, they're getting bigger, but it's that thing right there, the
Tarmac.
checkerboard, huh?
Is it tarmac?
So I one day I walked on it and it like squished real bad, and I said to my principal, I'm like, "Do y'all ever get the water out of this?" He goes, "Oh yeah, there's a whole drainage system underneath it. It's like a sponge." So
Oh,
apparently, when it rains, it sucks up all the water and then shoots it down in these drains that then drain out like a half a mile from the school into a retention pond.
that's
So
smart.
yeah, it actually turned out to be extraordinarily useful through these storms because we didn't flood. Like, um, I'm sure some of our trees were damaged, but and this one will feed into that one too. He told me. So, and then you can see some natural Florida grass, Holland's grass right there.
Why are there no students like outside, like on the fields?
This this had to be taken like during the summer. Um, actually, no. There's cars. Let's see if we can find my car.
The parking in America is so
Right
structured. Oh
there.
my God, it is so well structured. The parking.
That's that's the best car in the world right there. See it?
Yeah, it looks like a
You
sedan.
see my Yeah, that's my car. So I guess everyone's in class, but I don't know why no one's in the unless my car is back here. No, it's not. That was my car. Um, so either it's a teacher work day, no one's out and about, or everyone's inside in class, but I don't know where Jim would be. That's a good point.
So I'll send you a video of my university if I visit someday. So my university has like this very well structured. Uh, it's like an open world. Like it's a model city. So you have one building, and every building has its own garden. So
Oh,
it's
that's
like a
cool.
picnic. A lot of students during the lunch hour, or like whenever they're free, you'll see them just sitting about. You'll see a lot of couples hanging around. You'll see people hanging around in groups, playing with the stray dogs, just sitting having lunch. It's it's fun. It's people enjoying their youth, doing something.
Yeah. How many stray dogs do y'all have over there? Is that like a major issue?
No, not yet. Like sometimes incidents do happen, but generally we are very cool with strayed animals. Like in India is like we have lots and lots of street dogs, and it's actually fine. People are generally fine with it. Uh, People love them, in fact.
Ours is cats and raccoons. Dogs we'll take in as pets, but this girl in my county recently got uh, put in prison for lighting a raccoon on fire and then filming it burn to death. So yeah, psychopath. Yeah, she was 18, so I think we identified one. you
Hmm,
know,
yeah. Why? Why are you recording it?
she's psychotic. I don't know. Like the whole thing was so odd. Um, it's I'm sure in India people do weird stuff to animals. It's just I think it's part of like that psychosis almost that
Yeah,
some
so
people have.
there is a in psychology, of course, you will know it better. There's something called the dark triad or the dark
Yes.
quadrant where you have psychopathy, masochism, narcissism, and then like it forms a like these three traits, four or five, psychopathy, all of these traits come together.
Yeah,
And
Machiavellianism.
yeah,
And
short and stride, lots of stuff.
having some of those traits to a degree is not bad because you have to develop what Carl Jung will call as your shadow. That's your ability to be mean, to be the monster, to defend yourself. Yet you can't let that take over because then you become the monster. You just got to know that it's there and you put them away in a closet and you be a nice guy. And I've really found that to be true because, people won't respect you and then till they see that shadow and then all of a sudden they treat you differently, you know?
I think
Uh,
Jordan Peterson spoke about this.
oh, he's a big proponent. Yeah.
The ego, the id, the enigma, and the shadow. The ego, enigma, and shadow. So he was like, he speaks about this a lot actually.
Yeah, it's one of his things.
Peterson would
The e
be really popular in India if he was not such a devout Christian. If his views of morality did not come just from Christianity, he would have been a lot more popular in India.
that came out of nowhere too because he didn't start off like that. Like he started off more as a deist, I would say, like what the founding fathers were, where they were like, we believe in a God, but we're just exploring things until we figure out what's what. And then all of a sudden he became a hardcore Catholic, like out of nowhere. Like hardcore. His jackets are Catholic saints. Like it's and if he really did, really believes in it and he's not just grifting for money, then good for him. But I don't know, he joins the Daily Wire, then that happens. I don't know. He's been through a lot though as a
I mean,
person. So
being fired from your university for being popular, like if you're allowing your students to earn internet points, why not let your professors do the same? If you're going to stop it from like stop everyone from participating in online drama. But if you're letting your students go all in and restricting this one particular dude who has been like I'm not saying he's the only credible person in all of Canada, but he sure seems pretty competent.
yeah, he's one of your most famous celebrities. Like by attacking him, you make him stronger and the government weaker. It's such bad strategy.
Streisand effect. It's this is Streisand effect all
Yes.
over again.
You know, I think a lot of these older politicians are just out of their depths now. Like they don't understand all these new terms and all the new discoveries in psychology. Like, and just having these devices and like these talks increase intelligence so much compared to someone that's just sitting and drinking, reading the New York Times, getting one source of information, and falling asleep. Like, I mean, I'm sure there's U.S. senators that could not keep up with us right now. Talking about the different subjects across the world with a small language barrier. They would be lost and be having to ask one of their interns for help. You
I,
know,
I'm pretty sure 50% of people in the Indian Parliament right now would not be able to pinpoint on a map where El Salvador is, much less tell me who's the president of El Salvador. How true is this statement for people of your class? Like, how many students in your class would be able to tell me the president of El Salvador?
so that's a great question. Now we used to teach geography in this county up until a couple years ago. So
What do
this
you
was
mean
like
used to? What do you mean used to?
we no longer teach it. America, baby. We incorporate it into American history. I teach it. I sneak it into sociology, um, just because they need to know it. So 5 years ago, I would say about 90% would know. Now, 30 maybe, if that. If they had me in sociology, they would know where it was because
Nayib
I go
Bukele is
over.
interesting. Like it's Nayib Bukele. The president is Nayib Bukele, and he is an interesting dude. I mean, he's interesting for like a lot of reasons.
So who is this?
The president of El Salvador, Nayib Bukele.
Oh, okay, yeah. The guy did Bitcoin, right? As the
Sorry.
currency. Didn't he do Bitcoin as their currency?
Yeah, he legalized crypto. He
And then
legalized
he built the
cryptocurrency.
world's largest
Prison.
prison.
Yep. Uh, he was able to turn El Salvador from the most unsafe place on earth to the safest in the Western Hemisphere in 3 years.
Yeah, no, he's doing a great job, and they're building a tech city, a libertarian tech city funded by Jack Dorsey and Mark Andreessen.
Jack Dorsey,
So
that Snapchat guy,
yeah, the Twitter guy.
Twitter. Okay.
So they're gonna make a tech bro city, and I'm sure it'll be successful. Like when they did that investment in Bitcoin, and then Bitcoin crashed, I'm like, oh, El Salvador is gonna suffer, and then Bitcoin just went, and now he actually helped his people doing that, and that's, I mean, good for him. And he's now getting all the tech bro investments coming in. So he was a smart guy because that area of the country was one of the reasons we've had so much immigration was the people there were so poor or war torn because of that
MS-13.
MS-13.
Yeah, MS-13 was brutal.
Oh, they
That
were starting to come
was
into Florida before he got into office. I saw a guy with an MS-13 freaking tattoo. Haven't seen that guy since. So, you know,
maybe he got eaten by some alligator. Who knows? Florida has so many variables in which like any deviation in society can be tackled, like by nature and by like the people running around with guns.
hmm listen, if anyone ever invites you to go fishing and they don't like you very much, don't go fishing with them. Okay, that's the rule. All right, just a little nudge over because you just got to knock them out of the boat. And if you're going fast and the engine's on the back of the boat, your head will be sliced off when you fly out of the boat. Happens once a year to someone around here. So
I mean, it's just amazing. Like coming to that geography thingy, geography is important. Geography
it's one of
affects
the
your
most important things. It's
it
insane.
affects your
It makes no
cuisines.
sense.
It affects your apparel. It affects your language, your dialect, your habits, your cultures, uh, the crops you grow, the food you eat. Um, a
Your
lot.
economy,
Economy, yeah. Like, cultures
it'll
are
affect
heavily
war.
affected by geography.
And in the next couple of decades, it's going to be about water, you know, and water rights, and that's going to cause some war. And we won't even know where it is. The U.S. troops going over, it's like Bangladesh. Where is that? Is that next to Mexico? You know. So, but they can press a gun. So,
I mean, it's crazy to me how eerily similar US and Indian society is at this point, and I think a lot of it has to do with globalization.
oh yeah,
Ideas have been traveling back and forth just as quickly as material is. So, if I'm watching some YouTuber, let's say MKBHD review a product, I can I can order that product and have it delivered to me in my house before that 20-minute video finishes.
and if you think about it, y'all were colonized by the British, and we were a British colony, and we both kicked out the British. So we sort of have a similar, they're different cultures because of what happened prior, but we just sort of have that in common. Does that
Yep.
make sense?
Yeah.
So I think that's where a lot of similarities come from. The idea of democratic rule of law, People are valuable, and you don't get that in other parts of Asia, really. Or I don't, what do you consider India? Do you consider that Asia? I guess it's in the Asian continent, but
Uh, so,
it's so big, you
if
know.
if we were to politically differentiate it, it would be on what grounds that country was formed. Was that country formed on the grounds of religion, or was it found on ideas of decolonization? Was the freedom uh, earned by fighting, or was it just a decolonization effort from the United Nations or by the country's withdrawal? So, if for example, Laos and Cambodia were formed when the British withdrew, so they did not have a war of independence against the British. They had a war of independence, but it was not against the British. So, who did you fight to gain your independence also plays a major role in what direction your country is going to take. A lot of the countries were colonized by Imperial Japan, so they had a war of independence, but not against the British, but against the Japanese colonizers.
Well, yeah, that's an interesting take. Yeah, that definitely sets up a lot that would then happen. Um, because I don't know. I try to think of the future, and I really don't want a nuclear war to happen. But if it's a hot war,
Highly unlikely. Highly unlikely. Uh,
why do you say that?
uh, the media can keep hyping it up all they want. I don't think if it's like extremely uh, rare. I remember 2 years ago when Ukraine-Russia war started, everyone thought, oh, it could be a nuclear war. It could be. It's 2 years. If anyone was crazy enough to do it, it was Vladimir Putin. If he is, if he is not doing it, then no one else will. Um, there was a
Yeah,
recent attack on Netanyahu's home. Um, so maybe tensions will escalate in the Middle East region, but it will never reach Armageddon. It will never reach that stage.
yeah, and Netanyahu's too unpopular to be able to do any of that, and we wouldn't let him. He would accidentally commit suicide if he tried to do that. And
Israel will be liberated.
I think Putin's actually sort of had restraint, with this war, because there were several times he could have done something called like mini nukes. It's where you send like a fourth of a nuke to a location to take out a battalion, and he hasn't done that type of stuff. And he's clearly winning. Our media does not even cover it now. It's so weird. It's like there's like a blackout. Like it's not a blackout, but you have to like look for it. And I just don't know why we just don't do a ceasefire and end this thing. But I don't know. Maybe they'll do that right before the election or something. Something's gonna happen. But um, Trump's gonna win again, not because I'm in love with him, this or that. They didn't forgive student loans. They didn't help out the people they said they were going to help out. They didn't implement these other policies they said they would. So Kamala's literally running on what they ran on in 2020, like she's not president or vice president. You know, she's like, we're gonna handle the border crisis. It's like you're literally the border czar, lady. You can do it right now. And Trump just is eating her up. Like, and he's been smart. He's been going on every single podcast he can get on. And that's where you find my generation and younger. You know, the boomers are on mainstream media, but he's done Andrew Schultz's podcast, Patrick Bet, David Peterson, and the rumor is he's going to do Rogan this week. So
So, what are some actual issues which you would like the Republicans to address, which the Democrats missed out?
the 10,000 forgiveness of student loans. People generally think that's just a handout to rich college kids. They don't understand that these companies were fraudulent, rip people off, would charge them extra money, and were just really, really corrupt. that most of them are in prison now. Half the people that ran these student loans are in jail. So you're hampering an entire generation, about half of it, who can't get into homes or start their lives, and they can't have kids because of these things. And our birth rate's declining, our home or housing market stagnant. So it'll actually help the economy if you forgive these loans, because that money right now just goes to one family. That's it. And they're not even good people. They don't do anything. So Biden tried to forgive them. That family was able to fight it off in the federal court. Um, but if Trump did it, oh, he would be loved. Like, it's that simple. I don't know why he hasn't announced. Like, that's an instant winner. I don't know why Kamala hasn't either. Like, that's showing me how dumb she is, or she's bought and paid for. Another issue, no war. We got to pull out of these wars. You know, I would like us to stop meddling so much, but I know the CIA is going to be the CIA regardless. Um, I don't think. I think we need to stop the transition to electrical cars and transition to hybrid. I think that's better technology. I think wind power is a joke. Solar power to an extent, but I think we should be smarter with our fossil fuels, not panic and say climate change. Oh, there's nothing we could do. There's a lot we could do.
Yeah,
We could install
US
pumps,
wastes a
levees.
lot of energy. Like if you look at per capita emissions, US and Canada are so inefficient with how they use
Yes.
their energy. Like,
And food too. Like, we waste so much food.
yeah,
So there's all these things we could do to really improve the nation. We almost need like a new deal, like the New Deal with Franklin Roosevelt, hold us forward into what we became, later on. Um, we need to fix our healthcare system. That's all jacked up. Um, so there's a lot that needs to be done, but no one's talking policies anymore. When I was growing up, the arguments were always, my policy is better than yours. Well, my policy is better than yours. Now it's like, she's a fake Indian, and oh, he's a war criminal. Like, it's like just insulting each other. So it's so odd.
identity has taken, uh, identity has all of a sudden become a lot more important than policy and implementation.
And that drives me so crazy. Um,
So, like in
like,
terms of
they
just
were,
food wastage, so if we talk about food wastage, how often does an average American eats outside? Like how often does an average American eats or consumes food which is not cooked inside his home?
okay, how often do they go out to eat? It depends on the family. Let's say your average family that has enough money to afford to do that. They're right there in the middle class, smack dab in the middle class. I would say 4 times a week,
4 times a
3 to
week.
4
Okay.
for dinner. Now, during the day, it depends what they do for their job. Um, I would say most people pack their food. I do. Most teachers do. But we can't leave the campus really. Um, Breakfast, though, that's a big thing. A lot of people eat out there, like McDonald's banks, like in the morning. It is so good. That or Dunkin' or Starbucks because they don't want to make their fancy coffee in the morning. They're too tired, so they go get it from um, Dunkin' or Starbucks. So people eat out a lot, and that's actually a problem because it's really unhealthy. I've tried to cut back on it, and I've been pretty successful. Um, and there's things you can do like you ever heard of overnight oats?
Yeah, you soak them and then by the morning they have become soft and then you add your cereals and milk into it.
Yeah, that's what I was just eating. And
Oh,
the coffee shop I went to, the guy taught me how to make them, and they're so good. Like,
nice.
and if you put they have protein, and that's important, but you still need fats from animals. So I'll eat some prosciutto, like just a little slice too in the morning, just for energy. Um, but the people that always eat fast food, eventually they'll reach a diabetic tipping point. Is what I call it, and then they'll just balloon. Um, and the conspiracy is that our government did that on purpose so that they could then sell them Ozempic, because Ozempic controls your GB1. I'm forgetting what it's called, but it's your something in your sugar, and those type of foods like soda, preserved like hamburgers and stuff like that are GB1 antagonizers. So they sold us the antagonizers and then sold us the cure. So that's the theory. Um, the doctor for that El Salvador president named Jack Cruz
Okay.
is actually the one that was talking about that on a podcast. He's pretty crazy. I'll send. That's another link I'll send you.
Sure.
This crazy doctor.
I mean,
Um,
given the like, uh, for Indians, McDonald's, like for average middle class Indians, it is still like a luxury. Like students will hang out at McDonald's, so we don't consider it fast food. We don't do a drive by. Like we do it for fun sometimes. Like sorry, a drive through. We do a drive through for fun, but usually we sit at a McDonald's and order a burger and eat it. Like we don't start a day with it.
I will say fast food recently, probably over the last 5 to 7 years, culturally has lost a lot of its negative connotations in America. When I was growing up, it's like, oh, fast food. But now, a lot of families, it's gotten expensive and that's now considered a meal out. And they do a good job, if it's a good place, right? Like McDonald's does a good job in America. Like they're always consistent. I've never had bad McDonald's. I've had like maybe average, but it's never been like, oh, I got sick, you know. Um, and there's not enough people in America hanging out as groups though right now. That's the major problem. So um, maybe they should be hanging out at McDonald's.
I mean,
Because all they do is they'll get their McDonald's and go home, play whatever GTA something, and talk to their friends on that and eat the McDonald's. You know,
uh,
so
I guess nothing beats the taste of what grandmothers used to cook. So that's like a saying in India that grandmother's food is the best food you can ever have. There's no restaurant that makes food, and I guess that's because people used to be more communal, more not communal, but
oh yeah.
more social. Uh,
Well, you used to have even in America, you would have your entire multi generational family living in the same home, and grandma would help mom raise the kids and cook the food, and while the dudes worked. And with the modern times, it's like that. If you're in an industrialized country, it's all changed now because the women are working, the dudes are working. Some foreign national is the nanny, at least in America. And they're great people. I'm not trying to denigrate them. It's just that's the situation. Um, like my sister-in-law gets really mad at me. They have this Puerto Rican nanny who I call. I'm like, "Oh, y'all slave? How's y'all slave doing?" They get very upset at me when I say
your slave.
that. How much you buy her for? Did you have
Well,
to pay for the transport? So I get a little bit of trouble for that. But no, they treat her well. Like it's just oh no, she's not from Puerto Rico. She's from Cuba. Cuba. So
same thing.
I don't know if she's I don't know if she's here. No, she has to be legal because that's asylum. Anyways, she's a nice lady and does a great job. She's more strict on that kid than the parents. Like she does not put up with his shit, and I'm all for it.
That's actually a good thing because that means that if something were to go wrong, the child would feel more comfortable in telling it to their parents instead of to their nannies, right? In that way. So
Yeah,
it's good cop
and if
bad
anyone
cop.
Yeah, and if anyone tried to break into the house with her in it, I feel bad for those people. She would stab them. She has like a pocket butter knife she whipped out one time. Like she showed me, goes, "Want to see my butterfly knife?" I'm like, "Oh yeah," and she goes and had it. I'm like, "Nice that you have that. I can see you can protect my nephew." She goes, "Oh yeah, I'll protect your nephew." And she like stared at me, and I was like, "Cool," you know. But I
Uh,
mean, if she grew up in Cuba, I'm sure she saw some.
of course, like any Latin American country has not been free of violence, well, forever.
I mean, Cuba is our fault too, a little bit,
Little
you know.
bit,
A little
o-
bit.
only 600 times we tried to kill that man. Only 600 times we tried, and only 600 times we failed.
It was like a Looney Tunes episodes, exploding cigars. I'm surprised we didn't have like Acme TNT fall through his roof. You know,
Mm. So what does the college parties like? Not college, but like high school parties. Are they still a thing? Are the red cups still around? Do students do them?
oh, good question. They existed in a major way when I was in high school in 2004, but over time, it seems like right now that's no longer a thing. Our culture has really taken a hit because of the phones, because of video games, and a lack of, at least at Hollins, there doesn't seem to be a cohesion amongst the grade levels, like the seniors. We have 405 seniors in our graduating class this year. It's a huge class. And it doesn't seem like I ever hear about any of the kids going to some big party. When I was in school, we would find an open field and have a bonfire. And it was legal. The cops would eventually come and say leave, and no harm, no foul, unless someone did something stupid and threw like something at them. But that's not happening, and it's just really interesting to me because I'll tell them a story, and they're like, "Well, yeah, times have changed now," and they just seem depressed about it. So there's definitely a malaise, a depressive atmosphere with a lot of them, except for a few blue collar kids that are just working all the time, and they will go out with their younger workers, if that makes sense, that sneak them into bars. So they're having a good time. But outside of them, it's just like, it seems like everyone became introverts, hardcore. Does that make sense?
Mm, Introvert is a
So,
person who d doesn't like to engage or does not engage. I guess the problem with these kids is that they do not have anything to talk about outside of contemporary pop culture because they are
yeah,
not doing much. They're not
maybe
doing
that was the
much.
wrong
You see, it's a loop.
term.
So they're not doing much together because they don't have anything to bond over. They don't have anything to bond over is because they don't have shared interest. Is because they have no interest. Is because they don't talk. So you don't talk, you don't figure out common interests. You don't figure out common interests, you don't hang out and don't have big parties. At these big parties, you have big drama. And when people talk about that drama, the group expands, and then so on and so forth.
Man, that was really good. That was really, no, that's it right there. Yeah, because there's not a lot of drama anymore either at
We
my
need to have
college.
more drama. Yo,
Yes,
sharks.
I think I need to start planning rumors, around people, and be like, "Oh, did you hear what this girl said about you? Oh, you didn't hear? Oh, never mind."
Oh man. I mean,
Oh,
it's just it's sad. I mean, I grew up watching all of these American TV shows, and I know they're very far away from reality. But even Netflix, like my perception of America formed through Netflix, and as I grew older, it
mhm.
changed. But uh, when I used to watch a lot of these high school teen dramas, I was like, "Damn, that's the life I want to live." And when I now talk to people on LinkedIn, on socials, see, hey, was all of
So
that fake?
No, it wasn't all fake. It was Hollywoodized. But no, there used to be a hardcore good culture like that. It's just slowly died, and I don't know. There's a lot of different reasons for it sort of ending, but like a phoenix, it can rise from the ashes. I really do think that. I think it's our economy. I think we've been in a recession to an extent. Their parents are all divorced, and like we have a 53% divorce rate. Um, and I think that's affected kids. And you had the opioid crisis. So if you party too hard, then you're addicted to heroin. So there's a lot of pitfalls, and then date rapes, and Florida had a lot of date rapes going on because we were the ones that make the GHB, which is the date rape drug. So there were some dangers, and I think a lot of people became too sheltered. I also think eventually it will come back, and we just got to normalize a little bit, like um, because that still exists in rich areas, like in boarding schools and in some private schools in the Northeast. And the thing about Florida is we bounce back kind of quickly with party atmosphere. So I'm hoping that happens.
So,
Um,
how many students are there in one class? Typical, like yours?
just take a guess. How many think?
40, 45?
Okay, so it's actually I average 34.
Okay.
So I have it used to be bigger during COVID, but it lessened. Now it the law is caps it at 18. So obviously we follow the law. Um, but I can handle it. It just sort of sucks because you can't give individual attention to everyone. And that's why I stopped teaching math, because the math people come in and get mad at you for not engaging everyone. It's like there's 37 kids in here. You're like, what do you want me to do? So I just teach social studies where I can broadcast it out, explain it to everyone. Try to sneak in some geography to hopefully they know where they are.
So, like, how much would it cost for, like, let's say, how much is a McDonald's meal? Like, one burger, one set of fries, one cold drink. How much is it?
All right, so a Big Mac, this is actually an economic indicator people follow, is $9.89 at the moment in Florida, in
Okay.
my area. So like a Big Mac, which is the number one, I believe. So about $10. Um, which it used to be $4, but now it's that. And some other like the 99-cent ice cream. Like these girls were talking about this the other day, is now $3.29. And that's what another reason for like this rage that's simmering under our surface. It's not going to become a civil war or anything stupid like that, but it could become like the French, where people are running around lighting stuff on fire and throwing shit through windows.
So, like, let's say someone would want to have an activity or just treat students. So, if I want to treat 35 students, uh, how much money would one need? $100, $200? How much money would that take? Just to like have one meal with
For a meal,
some additional
so I
activities,
would
anything. It could be a pizza, a burger, anything.
so I would probably say do donuts, and it would probably take. It probably you could get it done for like $20. You know, there's ways. I have my tricks. If you want to do pizzas, that'd probably be two pizzas, and that'll probably run you 25. Like McDonald's, the key to that would having being to talk to the manager, because they'll actually usually help you out if you're a teacher and like cut you a deal. You know. Um,
So let's say me and my company wanted to sponsor something for the students of your class, and like have an event, any event, like a quiz about India or Indian culture, or anything to just stir up a conversation, move the class about. You answer a question, hey, you get a burger. You answer a question, hey, you get a burger. Something like that. Anything like that. How much would it cost in dollars?
Um, Anywhere, depending how much y'all want to spend, $10 to $50.
We can go up to 100.
Okay. It's just what you want to accomplish. And one, thank you. But two, send it to me. I'll message you on Instagram with my work email, because then I'll forward that to my boss because I have to involve the bookkeeper, but she's nice. And because we have vendors and we could do a pizza. There's pizza, Dunkin' Donuts. What else do we do?
Do you guys have Papa John's?
They exist. I don't know if they're one of our people though.
Yeah, so like any activity, anything that just stirs up
Oh,
conversation.
there's
Like
a local
for
pizza place.
yes,
Yeah.
like for 1 hour, we make people sit in a circle or in a group, remove your phones, have this meal, and just talk. And
Okay.
if you have nothing to talk about India. Just talk.
So, would you want to do this after school or during the school hour?
I have no idea how an American school and administration functions.
So,
So like I just want to
I
see.
have
I just want to
I
know
have
what would happen if somebody was like, what would happen if you put kids together with a meal and no agenda? What would they do?
one that's fascinating. Um, that's I would have to promote it right. And it should be after school to see who will come. If I do it in school, then that means the cost would be triple, but then that's still under $200. Um, if we do it the right way. So, but after school, we'd be able to get the student center and try to. I know I can get at least right off the. I know 10 people at least, but I can probably get 30 people there. Um, and if you just want to see what would happen, we can try to find that out if they want to like. And I know the district would be all about it because it's a, a multicultural cross world connection. You know, um, so I'll send you my email, and you can just send me the synopsis of what your idea is, so I
Yeah,
can send
sure.
it to my principal.
I'll also figure out like
And
a payment method. I'll see what payment method works for cross country events like this. I'll also have to check. But yeah, I think we can sort this out.
yeah, and I want to, this is a cool thing. So let's say the money in your end doesn't work out, like I can get money too. So I
That's
just
fine.
think that's a cool idea. What would you want it to include? Just anything or wide open, whatever you want to talk about?
Anything. I just want to see what people of like who are like 3 years, 2 years younger than me. So I'm 20 right now. What would you say would
Hmm.
be the average age of kids in like your
It,
class?
they'll be 16 to 18,
Yeah, so
maybe
just
14, some of them.
yeah, just let's just stir up conversations. Like as we are saying that people are not talking.
I love this idea, buddy.
Yeah, and put back offline games like put Uno, uh, maybe Twister. I don't know how comfortable people will be with Twister, but like put Uno, chess, board games, Dungeons and Dragons, whatever it takes. Just anything but phones. You don't have to touch your phone for an hour. For 1 hour, no phone. You have food, eat, talk, play. You just do.
Now, would you want to do this on like a video call, or you just want to? Well, just write it up and send it to me, like what you envision this to be.
Yeah, like video call is not necessary because then that would like take away a lot of attention, right? Everybody would be focused on the video call. I want the kids to just be, just talk amongst
Okay.
themselves. Yeah,
Oh, that's interesting. Okay.
like if you have an event which occurs at one point,
it creates a ripple. So people, every time they talk about that event, it brings up other memories of other people, and then from that one pivot event, people can make connections, and maybe people can interact with other people. We can have games where uh, you can have people write one thing about them on a piece of paper, put in a ball, mix it up, and then somebody else takes out the chit and they have to guess who this person wrote this. Anything which makes people engage with one another.
Oh, I think this is um, a really good idea. Here, so yeah, send me an email, and this is something interesting. Um, who's your company
Uh,
that you're
like
working for now?
we can have it on. So I have my own small thing, Xenon Media. We can do it through that as well. Absolutely no issues. Or I can talk to
Well,
my.
no, I don't. I'm just wondering, like, um, what's the new company you're working for?
So I'm currently working with Strategies to Scale. So we are a partner with a lot of Indian government agencies. We work for the World Bank. We work for
Oh,
GIZ in Germany. We work with United Nations Women, India's Women Ministry, uh, construction, and like we work across the world. We have 50 plus people. We publish articles. We are in the news every other day. So like we do stuff. We do gender mainstreaming, gender sensitive infrastructure, more accessibility, easy loans. Like we
oh
work
wow.
for progress of mankind in general.
Oh, that's awesome. Um, okay. This would look, if this happens the right way, this would also look good on the old resume for you. As a very unique. So it's just very unique. Um, so yeah, I'm down, and I like the idea of it not being a set thing yet, so we can just sort of adjust it and make it work because
Yeah,
we
yeah.
have a lot of time, and this seems to be something that'll be good towards a time when we're not doing much with testing. Um, well, actually, no, we can do it anytime because
Yeah,
testing is only half the day.
we can do it in November first week if you feel like. I have no issues. Or
In
December, like
when?
November first week or December, like whenever you guys want to plan it.
I would say a little bit probably before Christmas because those days are dead.
Okay, okay.
Those days are dead. Like
Let's do it
usually, like
November first week then.
yeah. Um, Let me talk to some people at my school because I
Sure,
gotta
sure.
go through the wonderful bureaucratic process. Um,
Yeah,
but no,
this
they'd
is
be all
something
for it.
which is like really strange. The whole bureaucracy of stuff, because I remember like back when I was like in I think secondary school, things were like so easy. Like we could just collect money in one class and then order a lot of food, and then we could just like distribute it just cause. Just like
Hmm.
we would have parties, interventions, parent teacher meetings. We would just do stuff.
Yeah. Unfortunately, because of corruption and embezzling, things have gotten just more bureaucratic, and people, need to justify their jobs. But something like this will also make people look good, and then at worst they look average. If that makes sense. So they'll be willing to do this. You know,
First,
with bureaucrats, you have to have a reason for them. Does that make sense? To do something. If it's them just helping you out, good luck. But if they have a reason to try to look good, especially to their bosses, they will because they can say we are working with India because you can you know put some makeup on this thing.
sure.
Oh yeah, we're working with officials in India to help them mentor our students, and you know, and the
Yeah,
district officials will eat that hook, line, and sinker. But regardless of that,
we can say
I think this is cool, man.
it's a public relations exercise from our end. Like we are trying to uh, provide food because that's what we do as Indians. Like it is part of, it has always been a part of our culture to feed people. like just cause.
Oh, and you can even say this is part of Hurricane Milton relief um,
Sure.
for the students. Okay, I really like this idea, man. Good idea. Yeah, just let me talk to some people and just send me a little email so I can have something in written form.
Definitely.
Um, I really appreciate it too, and I really like
Anytime.
this idea. And I'll just be brainstorming some different things, like on how I can make I can make it work. It's just trying to figure out the little details.
Of course.
Um,
Like it will take very meticulous planning, like especially with respect to bureaucracy and then carrying out something like this, executing it. Of
well,
course.
because then other people will rent rooms and this or that. It gets you know. Anyways, um, here's a weird question for you. What's the rule on like sending a liquid to India?
As long as it's not alcoholic, I don't think it would be an issue. Like if one can courier it. But the thing is that India has very high import duties.
So if I was to send you some Florida orange juice, real Florida orange juice, think that's possible?
Like, does that company have any office in India, or like is it exclusively
No,
a US company?
they don't have an office outside of Citra, Florida,
Oh,
but that's why they're so good.
maybe we can have like we'll have to check with some international shipping company like FedEx.
Okay, I'll look into that. If not, you might get some peanuts from Jimmy Carter's farm
Sure, sure, anything.
because I'm sure it's Jimmy Carter. So
I mean,
here, I'll send
all presidents of the US, like they all have this uh, legacy, you can say. Each one of them so different yet so similar in foreign policy. It's strange.
you. With I'm a big fan of Jimmy Carter. I've met him. He's the
Oh,
nicest guy. Well, because he does habitat for humanity. He builds homes. Like he's been the only president that I think has actually like sort of cared about people. I mean, they all cared about people to an extent, but he like was a Christian and a true Christian. Like not one of these guys that say, "Oh yeah, I'm
true
Christian."
question.
Thank
True
No,
question.
he would. Yeah, he would teach Sunday school on Sundays, and anyone could go to it. Like you could go listen to him, like and meet him, and he drove the secret security nuts because he would just be out and about peanut farming. But you know, he was a really good. Well, he's still alive barely, but really good dude. And everyone thinks he's dumb. He was a nuclear scientist on a nuclear sub, so he wasn't dumb. It's just he had events happen and it didn't work out. So I
So,
sent you the link to the shop.
orange farm thingy. Yeah, I found it. Got it. I'll check it out. I'll see if I can place an order from my end. Let's see if they ship to India. I'll check it out.
Yeah, because if you do ever get something from these people, you gotta get the Valencias. They're usually the best.
Sure, I'll try.
Um, so, well, yeah, send me that information. I'm really interested in that, and we'll talk. I'm gonna maybe talk to my principal on Monday about this and or tomorrow. Jeez. Um,
Yeah,
and I
I'll
really like
also
the idea.
tonight I'll figure out maybe tonight, maybe till tomorrow I'll figure out a way like how to make like money transfer from like a personal bank account to a personal bank account. I'll check that out. And yeah, let's do something,
Yes,
anything.
yes, yes. All right, so I'll be brainstorming, Malay, and
Sure.
thank you, man. Yeah, it's much obliged, and it's always a pleasure talking to you.
It's
And
same. I mean,
we'll get something done. I like this. Now I'm sort of excited. So you made my Sunday a little bit brighter. So I
uh,
appreciate
sure. Thank you so much, sir. You did the same thing. Like, it's always fun talking to like people that I grew up idolizing. That oh my God, America must be this heavenly place, and I figure out it is, but there is something underneath which is
you. There's a
very
shadow.
which is very similar to India. Like the 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 shadow of America is the presence of India.
It's, it's what we are in the present moment.
Yeah. Um, I'm bullish on India. I think y'all are coming up. So,
Everybody
um,
is like, it is India's century. We are a democratic country. We are strongly in favor of free market capitalism. At least the middle class in India is. So yeah, onwards and upwards.
and y'all are brilliant too. So, um, anyways, it was good talking to you, bud, as always. And I'll
Same
try
here.
not to be as much of a ghost, and I'll definitely be in touch now with this whole idea. I really like it. So,
Yeah, definitely.
yeah,
Let's work on it.
email me that stuff, and let's get her done.
Yeah, sure. Send me your email address and like I'll draft it formally from my company ID so that it looks more
All right,
professional. All right.
all right, I will.
Okay. Sounds
All right,
good. Yeah.
all right. Well, it's good talking to you, bud. I hope you have a good night, and
Same.
you'll get an email shortly.
Sure. Thank you so much, sir. Hope you have a good day ahead. Thank you.
All right, have a good day. See you, bud.
Bye bye.